central and inscribed angles in circles. The goal of today's lesson is to understand the central and inscribed angles and the measure of the length of the arcs intercepted. So how many degrees are there in a circle? You may know from previous math classes that there are 360 degrees all the way around a circle. That means as I go around the circle, the total measure of the arc is 360 degrees. It's important to note that if I have a diameter, that it cuts the circle in half, creating 280-degree arcs. I can also have a minor arc as well as a major arc. A minor arc is less than 180 degrees, and a major arc is more than 180 degrees. The next thing that you'll need to know is what a central angle is. And a central angle is just an angle with its vertex at the center of the circle. We can draw one right over here. Okay. It's important to know that the central angle has the same measure as its intercepted arc. This right here would be the intercepted arc. And I like to think of that as an intersection. So it's intersected right here. So this central angle has the same measure as that arc. So if I look at these values, I'll see that right here, this is a right angle or a 90-degree angle. And I know that this arc has to have the same value. So x is equal to 90 degrees. I know again that this angle has to have the same value as its intercepted arc. So this angle must be equal to 20 degrees. Another type of angle is an inscribed angle. And an inscribed angle is an angle whose vertex is on the circle and whose sides are chords of the circle. So let's draw a picture of that. And the important piece here is this has a measure half the measure of the intercepted arc. So here's my intercepted arc. And here's my angle. It's going to be half that arc. So we'll try some examples here. X represents my intercepted arc, 60 degrees being my angle. And I know that X has to be twice that angle. So X would be 2 times 60, or 120 degrees. Here, I know my angle is half of the intercepted arc. So I'm going to take 50 and divide it by 2. And I know that X is equal to 25. I can find the value of X because I know this inscribed angle is 60. So X would be 2 times 60, or 120. I also know that all of the degrees around a circle are equal to 360 degrees. So if I take 100 and 120, I would know that 220 plus y, which is what's left over, would be equal to 360. That would leave me with a y value of 140. So in this example, I know that X is equal to 120 degrees and Y is equal to 140 degrees. Let's look at the next one. I know that inscribed angles are half the measure of the arc they intercept. They both intersect the same arc. So what I can do is say that W is equal to 150 divided by 2, which is 75. I also know that Z is equal to 150 divided by 2. So W is equal to 75 and Z is equal to 75. I know that two angles that intercept the same arc are congruent. So that is why W and Z are equal to the same thing. If I look at the next example, they give me a central angle and an inscribed angle, but only one of them is labeled, and that is the inscribed angle. So I'm going to ignore that the central angle is even there. I know that my inscribed angle is 60, and I have to double that to get x. So x would be equal to 2 times 60, or 120. For this next example, I want to remember that a diameter cuts a circle in half. So I have 180 degrees over here and 180 degrees on the other side. So I know that y plus 40 is equal to 180. That means y is equal to 140. Again, I know that a diameter cuts a circle in half, so I'm going to have 180 degrees. This inscribed angle intercepts that entire 180 degree arc. So it will be 180 degrees divided by 2, which would make x equal to 90 degrees. It's a right angle. This problem requires me to use my central angle to determine the length of the arc. So I know that this arc would be the same as my central angle, so they would both be 94. And then apply it to find the measure of my inscribed angle. Measure of that inscribed angle would be half of the intercepted arc. So it would be 47 degrees. I treat these just like I treat inscribed angles. So I'm going to look at the arc that I see. And I'm going to say that x is half of 246. I would find that x is 123. Again, I know that all the degrees in a circle have to have a sum of 360. So I know that y plus 230 is equal to 360. That makes y equal to 130. This arc is 130. This inscribed angle would be half of that value. Which is 65. So x is equal to 65, and y is equal to 130. And the last example requires you to put some information together. I'm going to start with this central angle. I know that the central angle will have the same measure as the arc it intercepts. So z will be equal to 44. I also know that this inscribed angle is half the arc it intercepts. So it would be 22. I know that all the degrees in a circle have to add to 360. So I know that 204 plus y would be equal to 360, making y equal to 156. And if I take half of that for this inscribed angle, I get 78. And I just found all of the variables they were looking for. We will have a brief review at the beginning of your next class on this very material. Please be sure to ask me with any questions you happen to have. We'll also practice these skills with an activity in class. Have a good day.